Okay, so we're going to be working with the mini bots. And so if you weren't here when I said it, go ahead and start plugging in your mini bot. The mini bot are these cute little alien robots that I made to help you guys learn to program before you build your own robot. We found through teaching lots of workshops that it really helps to know how to program before building, because that makes the whole building process smoother. And so these mini bots have 3 things on them. They have 1 servo, 1 tricolor LED, and a light sensor on top of that little antenna that's sticking upwards. And while we're working along, we're going to be working on learning to program. Some of you guys will, really get the hang of it and not have any computer issues and just blaze ahead. And I'll ask that while we're working, if you could just help your neighbors if you're having an easy time of it, so that we can all kind of keep together. And so with that, please open your laptops and we're going to start programming. So if you've downloaded the Visual Programmer, open it up. You can plug the Hummingbird into your computer with the USB. Huh? They are plugging things in and starting up the software. Awesome. Okay, well, I'm going to start showing you guys around the software then. So when you open up the software and you have the Hummingbird plugged in correctly, you should have a screen that looks just like this. In the center, we'll kind of work from the inside out. In the center is this yellow block. This yellow block represents what we refer to as expressions. You'll notice that up on this tab, you're in the area called the expression builder. And expressions are sort of based on the idea of storyboarding, actually. So we kind of wanted to make an easy introduction to software from something that a student might be familiar with, like storyboarding. So when you storyboard, you break out the actions and the actions of the story into discrete components of the behavior, the story that you're telling. And so with this, we break the behavior of the robot down into discrete actions, singular actions, expressions. And so we often call them expressions because the robots that students make tend to be somewhat, like an animal or a human that would have a facial expression. So you can have a dragon expression that's the dragon's happy, or the dragon's angry, or the dragon's sad, along with the many other combinations. And so that's the yellow. And around that, you see this blue block that is our sort of illustrated version of the Hummingbird. And so you're welcome to kind of rotate your Hummingbird to make it match up so that the servos are on the top and the vibration motors are on the bottom. That might help you kind of envision how this is working. And around the outside, there are these little white blocks. And each of these white check boxes represents a single port on the Hummingbird. And so for example, on my mini bot, I have plugged in servo 1. So I will click the servo 1 block right there. And I will click the tricolor LED 1 block, which is right there, because I have tricolor LED 1 plugged in and I have servo 1 plugged in. If you're not getting your robot to behave as you would expect with your software, it might be because you're choosing the wrong port number. You think you have it plugged into 1 and it's actually plugged into 3. And you also have a sensor plugged in, but we don't use sensors until later in the storyboard when we're making full behaviors. Right now we're just doing static expressions that don't require sensing. And so I'm going to make 3 expressions for my robot, and I'd like you all to follow along and kind of make expressions the same way. So I'm going to make one where the servo is right in the middle of this bar. You see I can use this little blue slider to adjust the servo position. And it moves when you let go of the mouse. So you can slide it, and when you let go, it moves. So you can see my little guy here has his servo pointed straight up. So go ahead and make all of your servos for your mini-bot pointing up. And I'm going to make the light on my LED green. And so I have these little sliders here. And I will move the green slider up. And so now I have a green vertical little expression for my alien. And I'm going to call it very creatively green up. And so you click this save button here up at the top. and allows you to type in the name for your expression. So go ahead and click the Save button. Right there at the top right. Yep. So everybody saved an expression green up? Yeah, you just need to plug it in a little bit tighter if it's blinking. So yeah, just take your screwdriver and get it a little tighter in there. Yeah. Okay, so save it when you can as green up. And now I'm going to make another expression. I'm going to move my servo over to the right, your left, and I'm going to change the color of the LED to blue. Okay? So I will call this blue right. So I'll click Save again. And it'll double check. It'll say, you're going to overwrite. Do you want to overwrite the green up you just made, or do you want to rename it? And we want to rename it. So I'm going to say Save a copy. And I'll come up with something else, like blue right. Yep, right or left. Either way is fine. Aliens right, your left, probably, if it's facing you. I call it blue right because it's the aliens right. Okay. All right. Whatever works for you. Okay. And now I'm going to make one more expression. I'm going to move this slider to the opposite end. And I'm going to change the color to red. I have this red light on, and I'm going to call that, not surprisingly, Save a copy, red left. Or red right, if that's how you're naming it. So if you're using a new computer, you will only have these three expressions that you've made in this list. I make lots of expressions, so I have a very full list. If you're using one of our loaner laptops, you might have quite a few in your list also from other workshops. Okay. Emily, sometimes that one of our computers has one USB port that's bad. It's my guess. Yes. Mm-hmm.
My blue didn't show up. Do you think maybe it's just a bad blue wire?
Yeah, it can be bad. Sometimes we test it by bringing it over here.
You might have yours. Did you click server 4?
Oh.
That's your server 4.
Works.
Not server 1. Right. You have to click the server 4, not server 1.
So why don't you try blue again? Yep. There you go. Okay. So while you're working on your last expressions, I'll show you a couple more things you can do with expressions. If you build your full robot, you'll have a lot more different output options. You can have regular LEDs, which have those single sliders that adjust how bright this LED is. But it's an orange, the bar is labeled in orange, but we don't actually know what color it is. It's whatever color you've plugged in. There are motors. The motor sliders have these little icons around them. There's a tortoise and a hare for fast and slow, and they're running in opposite directions. So you can make it go fast one way or slow the other way. And so by moving that slider back and forth, you can change the speed and direction of the motor. And whenever you're using a regular motor, you want to be sure to have an expression called stop. Because the motor, when you stop running the program, will not turn off the motor. It turns off whenever you tell it to turn off. So you have to make sure you have an expression for your robot that says turn off. Yes?
That expression just to stop what's happening?
Yeah, so I'll show you. When I make a stop all expression, I will turn on both motors and both vibration motors. And I will make sure that the numbers in all of these little number fields say 0. And then I'll just save that as stop all, like this. Oops, save a copy. Stop all. And so that way, if I have a robot that's using vibration motors or regular motors, I can just throw that at the end so that I know it's going to stop wiggling and trying to run away from me when I'm done. But yes. And as a side note, with these little number fields, if you're kind of a perfectionist, you can type in the number you want. So if you really want the servo to be at 30 degrees, you can type in 30. Okay, and it'll go to that number in particular, just by typing in and pressing enter. And lastly, there's also audio in the expressions. So say, I didn't show all of you this for your expressions because we don't want to have a little robot choir in here, but I'll just show you on my robot, we have audio. So we have like tones, like little pure tones. You can change the volume and how long it lasts for, so I can make my tone last for 1 second. And there's ones, I can tell you which ones are the favorite of students. They're these really high. Drives everyone nuts. We tried to make it so it didn't go too high like dog whistle, but those are popular. We also have a bunch of clips. So we have a dog bark. So you're welcome to browse through the clips we have. If you have a sound that you really want, you can download it from the internet and click and drag it in by clicking Add New Clip. You can just drag your files in. We support WAV files, so try to find WAV files. And if you can't find that, you can get an audio converter for free. Lots of different audio converters are available online. But we've had patriotic robots that do like the Star Spangled Banner and stuff while they wave and blink. And finally, there's a text-to-speech with a very robot-y voice. So I say, I am a robot. So that's what it is.
I am a robot.
And it kind of doesn't have really good pronunciation, so sometimes you have to add extra letters.
I am a robot.
So at your own risk, trying to use the text-to-speech. And you can save those as part of your expressions.
I should also point out that that's playing through the speakers on your computer. So there's no speaker on the Hummingbird. So if you have a laptop that doesn't have any speakers or they're broken, the kids won't hear anything. You might have like a separate pair of speakers that you bring around for if they're going to do a presentation at the end, but then they get to put a little bit louder speaker on for their presentation.
Awesome. And for each of these, for those of you that are really eagle-eyed, you will notice that there are these little icons on the yellow expression block that help you recognize what each expression is doing. So right now I have the audio turned on, and you'll see the audio icon on the expression is lit up. If you have servos 1 and 3 turned on, you'll see it's also turned on the servos on that icon. Do you see that? How it turned from gray to black? So that's just a little bit of a key. So like if you have students that are making these big expressions and for some reason it keeps barking and it's not supposed to bark for whatever reason, they were just like playing with their expressions, you can look through the expressions and find the one that has the sound icon and know that that's the one you have to go back and fix.
I'm sorry.
Yes, go ahead.
With audio, does it have to be associated with anything in particular? Like, does it have to be associated with a motor or a...
Nope. Yeah, so for the different audio and associations with expressions, you can have an expression that is exclusively audio. So I can just make an expression like this. I can make an expression for every note on the keyboard and write twinkle, twinkle, little star, and the robot won't do a thing. It'll just be my computer beeping. So that's definitely something that you can do.
Control the amount of time it does that?
Yep. So you can change how long and how loud the tones are for. So that's here, the duration. And at the same time, you can also cause, actually, why don't I do this? I'll make a couple sounds too, just to demonstrate them. Actually, here. So I'll save I'll make C, make E. This is actually a good demonstration. I'll show you this. And G. Okay. And so now we're going to go over and make sequences. So click on this tab up here in the sequence builder. And I'll show you really quickly what the audio can do. You can actually change and make notes happen simultaneously. So if I put in my C, my E, and my G, it'll just go C, E, G. But you can adjust the timing in the sequence. So this is our sequence of expressions. You can see that these yellow blocks are representing each of the expressions that I just made. And in between them, we now have this little timer with a time, 1 second, and a clock that allows you to change it. And as each thing happens, it'll fill up the bar. So here, watch again and watch the bars fill up as 1 second passes. And so that allows you to follow along with the expressions as your robot does them so that you know where something is going wrong, if something is going wrong. And you can change how long those pauses are for. So I can have them overlap a little. I can have half a second. Each of these notes is 1 second long. And so now when I press play, or you can do a chord and have them all happen at once. So you can go crazy. But now getting back to the mini bots. We can click and drag, like I was just doing, the expressions that you've made for your mini bot in. So I'm going to click and find in this list in the top where the expressions live. You'll recognize the little yellow icon again that represents the expressions. I'm going to grab my blue right, and I'm going to click and drag it in. The little plus sign here represents where it's going to go. OK? I'll do it again. I'll go find my green center. There it is, green up. And finally, I will go find my red left. If you put them in the wrong order, at this time you can't actually move them once they've been placed. So to get rid of them, you have to hit this red X button and go get a fresh one to change their order. So when I press play up here, see this little play button, the blue arrow? When I press play, my robot will do my sequence. Ready? It's not the most exciting thing, but it gets better when you build your own robot. So right now, it does blue right for 1 second, and then it does green up for 1 second, and then it does red left. OK? And much like on your music player on your computer, there is a repeat button, this little arrow, and if you click it, it will do it forever. Is there any questions for the group now that I've shown you that right now? OK. Oh dear. Someone just discovered that it is possible to set the times so that it's too fast for the servo to keep up. So the servo, despite being pretty speedy going to each angle, does take, 0.2 seconds, 0.3 seconds to move to each position. If you don't get it enough time, it will switch to the next expression. So I'll show you that. So if I give it only 0.1 seconds, it won't be enough time. You see how it kind of changed colors a little bit early there? It'll be more obvious if I put blue right here. OK, watch this. Not really what I have it programmed to do. And that's because it doesn't have enough time for the servo to complete the motion. So if it's not doing what you want, also make sure you're giving it enough time to really carry out the action. OK. Yes?
If you edit an expression and then you already have a sequence up, do you have to reload that expression?
Yeah, so right now to update it, you can either save and reload your sequence or delete and pull in the expression again. But you have to do something to cause it to refresh. OK. I'm going to now make a new sequence. Or actually, no, I'll save this. Sorry. So I'm going to make these all 0.5, because I think that should be enough time. You're welcome to do the same. So now it's 0.5 seconds to go from blue right to red left. So that's pretty nice. And I'm going to save this as mini dance. And that will add the sequence mini dance to your list of sequences here. See it right there, mini dance? And if I click the new button in the top here of the software, I can get a fresh sequence, so I'm going to do that. And now if I pull in mini dance, you'll see I get this little stack of expressions and it's turned green. That indicates that multiple things are going to happen in that sequence. And so if I play it, it'll do the exact same thing. And it tells you a little bit about that sequence. It tells you that there are 3 expressions inside of it. Okay? And I can have my robot do it 3 times if I really like the mini dance. So you saw it did it 3 times. But say I wanted to do it 10 times, and I really don't want to keep clicking and dragging those in. I can also come here to the bottom where this orange thing is, called a structure. It's called a counter. And if you drag a counter in, you can type in how many times to repeat the action. So I can drag in mini dance, and I can click the unlock button at the top, and I can type in a different amount of number. So I'll type in 8, and then I'll relock it. And now it will do mini dance 8 times. And as it completes, it will fill out this bar on the top. It will do it 8 times. In 8th, for those of you that are teaching fractions. Okay? The very last thing I'm going to show you is how to use the sensors. Okay? Is everyone clear on the counters and everything else we've done so far?
Where do you put, I missed where you put in the number of times you want it to.
When you pull in a counter, to tell it how many times to do something, you click on this little lock icon to unlock it, and then you can type, and then you can click it again to relock it. It did. Oh, no, it didn't do it here, because it doesn't have, it's not doing the action. Here, I will do it. So I will put in 8 times, and it will do the little, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, yep. Awesome. Okay. So next up, I will do the sensor. And right down next to where it says counter, there's a little block that says sensor and has that sensor icon on it. So go ahead and pull the sensor structure right on in. And delete your counter if you still have it, so we don't get too much mixing and matching here. Yeah. Okay. So a sensor has 2 bins in it, if you will, 2 of these areas. And the sensor is based on the idea of a number line. So if you have, let me get a black marker. Oh, we're really using this whiteboard. OK, over here. So if you have a number line, right, you can set a value on it here. And you can say all the numbers greater than that number and all the numbers less than that number. And this little point here that we've set, and we can set that anywhere, is what we refer to as a threshold. And so that's like the threshold, the decision point, where the robot changes from doing one action to a different action. So on our sensor, this little slider here is like that number line, and this blue block is the threshold you're setting. And so on my robot, I have a light sensor, so I'm going to tell it I have a light sensor. And right now, it's pretty bright. And if I cover up my light sensor, if I have it plugged in correctly, I don't have my sensor plugged in correctly. I will fix that. OK, let's try that again. OK, so now I have the light sensor plugged in correctly. And when I put my hand over it, it should switch to dark. assuming I have it plugged in. Let's try that one more time. There we go, finally. It's a little dark over here in this side of the room, so I'm actually going to use a flashlight instead. Okay. So now when it's bright, you can see that green bar moves up higher towards the bright end of the scale. See? And then it's kind of middle-y dark, and then when I cover it with my hand, it gets all the way dark. Do you see that green slider moving, depending on how bright my light sensor is? So I can get it brighter and darker, and I can change the number. Does everyone have their light sensor kind of behaving like that? You can kind of see how you control it? Awesome. So I want my robot, since I'm in the dark, I'm going to actually have my robot do stuff when it's bright. But depending on your robot, it might be easier to have it do an action when you cover it, when it gets darker. So you can set your threshold to do whichever. But I'm going to move my slider down here to the middle, down closer to where it is right now, the sensor value, the green value. And now when I put my light over the light sensor, you'll see that the green bar passes my threshold. Everyone seeing that? So it's left side, right side. And so when it's on the left side, it will perform all of the actions that I put, sorry. When it is in the left side, it will perform all of the actions in this left bin. And when it's on the right side, it will perform all the actions in the right bin. So if I tell it to dance, do the robot dance, when the spotlight is on it, when it's brighter, it'll kind of dance when the light's on it and stop dancing when I take the light away. And you might have noticed I also clicked these arrows at the bottom. These arrows can be either set so that after it finishes the action, it does the action and then goes through this arrow and continues to do the rest of your sequence. Or I can click it so that it will repeat. So it will get here and then it'll come back up and it will do that decision again based on the sensor. And so if I want it to do this dance or not dance action forever, I want both of these arrows clicked so that they're looping back up. Need me to say that again? It was a little fast. Does that make sense? OK, so I'll show you what this one does for starters. Yep. You do not, if it's repeating forever, then you have to press the stop button to get it to stop. This robot doesn't have a motor or a vibration motor, so I don't need the all stop at the end because it doesn't have something that will continue to go. So I'm going to play this just so you can watch it.
So the all stop would have to be at the end of the mini dance sequence, right?
Yeah. So right now it's doing nothing because it's dark, and when it gets bright, he gets really excited and does a little dance. And when I take the light away, he stops again. If I change these loops at the bottom so that this exited after dancing, it will only dance once, and then the program will stop. OK? So let's watch that. And the program stops. If I put a little music at the end, so now it'll wait, and you guys can watch this. So it exited the dance action and continued down to play the song. OK? Yes, sir?
Can you drag the counter into the area where you drag the mini dance, or not?
You can. It doesn't fit really well. So what I normally recommend is if you want it to do a lot of repeated actions inside of a sensor, let me make a new sequence. You can create your counter with the dance and save that 4 times, or you have it dance 4 times, and save that as 4 dance, and then make a new sequence with the sensor that has 4 dance. Let me get it set up real fast. So now it'll dance 4 times before exiting, because it'll do the 4 dance sequence. So if we watch that, 1, 2, 3, 4, music. Okay? And while you're creating your sequences and your robots, there's one thing I like to emphasize when I'm talking to students, and that is the idea of intentional design. So when you're building your sequences, I want you to really think about what you want the robot to do, and then program your software to do that thing you wanted. Oh, it just magically happened this way and I really like it that way, doesn't have quite the same technological fluency, the same impact as really making the robot do exactly what you wanted it to do. So try to be intentional with both the robot you build and the software you create.